head on Q2, havoc on the highway.
This has been the worst ice storm I've ever hit.
Interstate 90 shut down for hours today, stranding travelers and backing up traffic for miles. Plus, a hurricane of fire erupts near Los Angeles.
It's my whole life.
Everything was in there. So lost everything.
Wildfires exploding across California, with authorities warning the worst is yet to come. And with just a few days left in office, President Biden hands down a major ruling safeguarding Montana's grizzly bear population. The MTN 430 News starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. I'm Andrea Lutz. This winter weather spelling trouble on Montana's roadways. Interstate 90, in fact, shut down for 12 hours between Columbus and Big Timber today, causing a backup that stretched for miles. Ice created slick conditions and wind led to low visibility. One truck driver even calling it some of the worst conditions he's ever seen. The road is now back open, but our Haley Monaco spoke to travelers stuck in park.
Traffic is moving again in both directions on I-90 from Columbus to Big Timber, but for nearly 12 hours, many people were stuck right here in Columbus.
This has been the worst ice storm I've ever hit.
Late Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, truck drivers from around the U.S. came to a halt at exit 408.
Waiting for the storm to pass on the 90 over here. There's a lot of bad ice and weather.
Gary Goins and his wife were headed home to Nevada with their truckload. They were among the first at the Exxon in Columbus, waiting overnight.
It was pretty bad going over the pass. There was a lot of trucks flipped over and stuff like that.
I got stuck first in St. Louis, and then we traveled on up here and we hit it again. Been here since about 3 o'clock in the morning.
The issues for Derek Baines and dozens of others actually started in Sweetgrass County, where high winds, ice, large snowdrifts, and low visibility caused the 40-mile I-90 shutdown.
I think that there were several accidents, which is what started the thought process to do the road closures.
Stillwater County Emergency Services Chief David Stamey spent hours Wednesday morning diverting traffic.
We started to actually clear passenger traffic and left the semi-trucks on the highway, but we started to sort of decompress some of the traffic and get it off the roadways.
Longtime driver Pat Carlson decided to reroute after being stuck for 3 hours.
I'll backtrack back to Billings, and then I'll catch 3 up to 12 to 191, 191 back into Big Timber.
Carlson says that's going back about 200 miles, but better than standing still.
Well, Mother Nature's usually pretty good to me. I picked this load up in Michigan, and everything was going all honky-dory until I hit this.
Finally, traffic resumed in both directions a little before 11:30 Wednesday.
This is just truck driving world. You got to take the good with the bad.
But as drivers began their travels again, a steady caution remained.
All my truck drivers, just be safe. This is a bad time of the year, but especially on the 90, just take it easy.
In Columbus, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
The strong winds responsible for many of those troubles across the state today. They'll continue to be a concern moving forward. But with the very latest on today's conditions and what we can expect over the next 24 hours, here's Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
Temperatures are mainly in the 30s across eastern Montana here this hour and through northern Wyoming, down to 22 in Graybull. John, thanks for your report of some light snow there. This is where that weather system moved through, closing the roadway along I-90 and then pushed those big flakes through Billings right about lunchtime today. Those winter weather advisories have expired, but now the snow moving off into the eastern plains. Northeastern Montana, even a rain-snow mix at times here. We kind of expected that through the day today, but more snow and wind expected overnight tonight, especially favoring southeast Montana and northern Wyoming. Then quieter tomorrow with sunshine and lighter winds, but another round of snow and wind expected towards the weekend. Give you the details coming up.
Terrifying images out of Los Angeles County, where a windstorm with gusts of up to 100 miles an hour fanning the flames of at least 3 major and now deadly wildfires. They are burning out of control, destroying homes and businesses and forcing tens of thousands of Californians to evacuate. Elise Preston reports from the Palisades fire.
Fire officials have called for more resources as they battle a disaster of epic proportions. Multiple wildfires burning across Los Angeles County.
Together, these fires are stretching the capacity of emergency services to their maximum limits.
The largest one is in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood. Tens of thousands of residents are under evacuation orders. At the Eaton fire, which broke out Tuesday night near Pasadena, some homeowners returned to see their houses destroyed.
It's my whole life.
Everything was in there. So lost everything.
You can see just how powerful these winds are. These wind gusts have topped out at about 100 miles per hour, and that is what is making these 4 fires so dangerous.
You know, it's really scary when you can see the flames coming up over the houses 2 blocks away.
As the fires continue to spread, public safety officials are asking people to be ready if necessary.
Make sure you have your essentials, your important paperwork, your medications, things that you can take, your phone charger.
They say anyone who stays put is not only risking their own lives, but putting emergency workers' lives in jeopardy too. Elise Preston, CBS News, Malibu, California.
Coming up at 5:30, we'll hear from a former Billings resident now living in California experiencing these raging fires firsthand. The Biden administration will keep grizzly bear protections in place in 4 Rocky Mountain states, including Montana and Wyoming. The decision comes despite objections from Republican politicians, including Montana's governor. Grizzlies are protected as a threatened species across the lower 48 states. Some scientists say bear populations, including in Yellowstone and Glacier National Park, they have recovered. However, federal officials say they'll reclassify the grizzly status so ranchers may shoot bears killing livestock. Efforts to eliminate protections were blocked in court just years ago. Governor Greg Gianforte petitioned the federal government to delist grizzly bears in the Northern Divide ecosystem, and today he spoke out against Biden's ruling after he says he didn't take action for years.
We are deeply disappointed with the Biden administration and its complete defiance of the science and the law. The state of Montana has proven we are ready to manage this fully recovered species. This decision makes it clear that Joe Biden has embraced a scorched earth strategy on his way out the door.
Meanwhile, the Greater Yellowstone Coalition applauded the decision, saying, thankfully, grizzlies are no longer on the brink of extinction, but the decision to maintain protections for bears demonstrates more work remains. Our goal is to ensure that any future transition to state management maintains and builds upon this conservation success long into the future. The new Congress could be on the verge of passing their first immigration bill. The legislation, named after 22-year-old Laken Riley, who was murdered by an undocumented immigrant last year, would require the Department of Homeland Security to take into custody undocumented immigrants charged with theft and other crimes. Joe St. George reports.
The new Congress here in Washington is on the verge of passing its first major piece of legislation related to immigration. And unlike previous attempts by conservatives to pass this bill into law, this time more Democrats appear to be getting on board.
The bill is passed without objection.
The Laken Riley Act passed the House of Representatives on Tuesday, named after the 22-year-old nursing student who was killed by an undocumented immigrant nearly 1 year ago. Her death becoming an important issue in the 2024 campaign. The legislation requires authorities to detain undocumented immigrants charged with theft-related nonviolent crimes. Under current law, non-citizens who've been convicted of at least 2 petty offenses are subject to possible deportation. The legislation would also give state attorneys general the right to sue the United States Attorney General or the Homeland Security Secretary because of immigration offenses. The Senate could now take up the bill as early as Friday, and all signs point to it passing because more Democrats are supporting it than they did last year. 48 Democrats voted for it in the House of Representatives, and newly sworn in Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego said online that he would co-sponsor it in the Senate. We must give law enforcement the means to take action to prevent tragedies like what occurred to Laken Riley. Friday's anticipated vote in the United States Senate is symbolic as well. It would have been Laken Riley's 23rd birthday. This debate likely marks the beginning of a renewed push by conservatives in the House and the Senate to pass even more immigration-related bills in the coming weeks and months. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
As the 69th Montana legislature begins, there are proposals on the table to reallocate marijuana tax revenue for uses aside from the outdoors. In 2021, Montana made the historic investment with the passage of House Bill 701, dedicating a portion of the state's recreational marijuana tax revenue to support both conservation and recreation across Montana. Well, Montana is in a strong fiscal position, ending last year sitting at over $1 billion, and it's expected to have an additional about $2.5 billion in revenue to allocate in the next budget. Those funds are currently being distributed to the Habitat Montana program, Montana Trails Stewardship Grant Program, non-game wildlife management, and Montana State Parks. It's money the State Parks Foundation says is vital to keeping them successful.
Back to state parks, the marijuana tax revenue is a significant and a really important part of the state parks budget. With the decline in coal severance tax over the years, which has been an important part of the state parks budget, marijuana tax has really filled that hole.
Currently, the governor's office is looking to modify the formula from their executive budget proposal. It's unknown right now what the modification could entail.